Jim, you are probably without a doubt the king of comedy as far as situation comedies go on television. So I think my first question would be, because you've been attached to such great pieces of work like Taxi and Cheers and Friends, what do you look for before you attach your name and your reputation to a sitcom?
The script. It's all about the writing to me. It's all about the voice of the writers. When pilot season comes around, pilot season being when the new shows for the following season are picked, I usually get most of the comedies, and so I get to read all of them. And so I look for good writing. And good writing, by dint of saying good writing, it's interesting characters. So that's, to me, the paramount thing.
When Will and Grace, the script or whatever you first saw, the treatment or whatever, first came across your desk, do you remember what your first reaction was when you read it?
I remember reading the first scene and I said, oh my God, because in the first scene, it's two people talking on the telephone, and you discover at the end of the first scene that it's a gay man. They're two people you think are a couple, and oh my God, it's a gay man. And then you read on the ensuing script, and you realize how well Max and David wove this interesting tale about these two best friends. And so I knew when I read that script that I wanted to do the show. I got it early, and I said I wanted to do it, and then it went away for a while. I don't know why. And then I talked to my agent and said, what happened to that script? I really liked it. And he said, no, it's still out there and they're going to do it. And I said, well, I want to do it. Don Ohlmeyer was running the network then, and Don respects me and I respect him. And it was never about, the notes were never about Will's too gay or anything like that. Right. The notes were, they saw what the show was. The show is about human beings. Two of them who happen to be gay, but it's not about two gay guys.
Right.
And that's what's so great about this show.
Did you think, though, when you finished your first episode, that you would still be doing this particular show in its 5th season?
I wanted, after I did the pilot, I wanted to do the show. I wanted to do the first, at least the first year. First year. Number one, it comes out of my company is one of the producers, so it was important to me that if a company run by me was going to own a show, that I direct that show. Mm-hmm. That was important to me. And I knew this was not so much with Friends, where it was not part of my company, but that show, I felt that the actors were so strong in that show, and the image was not as controversial in that show, that I didn't have to pursue that show, although I loved it and had a great time on it. On this show, I think it was important for me to stay with the show because of the concept, and I think me continuing to do the show added credibility to the show, and people. Now, I don't think the public, in Iowa are going to say, "Oh my God, another Jim Burrows show! We got to turn that on." Right. But I think in the community, I think it really enabled Max and David to achieve their image.
Yes, I was just curious if those incredible individuals, those 4 individuals, helped bring you on board even quicker, or were they not even cast when you signed on?
No, when I signed on, there was nobody. It was just a script. And then I was doing, I don't remember what I was doing that year in '98 either. Probably, I think Caroline the City, I was doing episodes of that, and maybe Frasier. And then Max and David did, because I'm so busy during the year, the creators of the show do the casting, start with the casting, and then the last 3 or 4 choices, we'll all sit in a room and we'll look at them. And they brought me Eric and another actress to play Will and Grace, and you could see that Eric was wonderful, but there wasn't real chemistry between the two of them. So we then began a hunt for Grace, and we went through a number of people, and we kind of knew about Messing. She was out there, she had done Ned at Stacy, and we had to, try to entice her into the room, but once she came into the room to read, there was no question that these two kids had chemistry together, and you could see right then. Yeah. And Sean, there were 2 choices for Jack, and Sean was the obvious choice. And Megan, I was busy when I cast Megan, Max and Dave, because that was the hardest part to cast. We couldn't find And then they called and they said Megan Mullally came in and read, and I said, oh, she's great. So that's how the casting process. The boys did the majority of work on it. And you know, we're lucky. I've been lucky enough to work with about 4 or 5 ensemble casts that are like some of the great in television, and it's a thrill when you have that, because you never have to write away from anybody. Anybody can do a joke.
Yeah.
If the joke doesn't work, it's not the actor's fault. It's the joke's fault, and so we have a wonderful time.
Yeah. Do you remember what was going through your head the first day you were on set and you saw all 4 of them, and how brilliantly they played off of each other? It must have been incredible.
Well, I think if you watch the pilot, the pilot's really about Will and Grace. The pilot, the chemistry in the pilot has to be Will and Grace, because it's about, you know, she's about to marry a guy. Will doesn't think it's the right guy for her. So the pilot is mainly Will and Grace, because the character of Karen wasn't fully developed till about the 3rd or 4th episode. When Karen met Jack, I think Rob Reiner did that film. When Karen met Jack and they touched bellies, that's when those 2 characters exploded. Yeah. But in the pilot, Jack's kind of funny, but Karen's not up to speed. She didn't get up to speed till about episodes 3 or 4, when the boys found her voice.
Right.
So in the pilot, it's definitely, you care about what happens to Will and Grace.
Yeah. Since this is a director's cut, I got to ask you, first season going out on DVD, do you have a favorite episode or a favorite moment or something that just sticks out in your mind from season number 1?
I think one of the great moments is when Karen and Jack touch bellies. And what's so interesting to me is this is one of the reasons I've stayed on this show is the fact that there are things that we do on the show that I've never done before in situation comedy. Number 1, the number of guest stars we have. Number 2, the topical and pop culture references. Number 3, it's much more farcical than any other show I've done. And number 4, it's got more sexual innuendos than any other show. And I've done that because it's been a learning process for me, because I was never. Cheers' sexual innuendos were very subtle, and we never had guest stars, and we didn't. It was not that farcical. So all these molds have been broken.
Right.
And I'll never forget that the scene with when Karen and Jack touched tummies. It was the 2nd episode, and I said to Max, I said, well, this doesn't relate to the story. And he said, well, it's really funny. And I said, well, you know, he's right. It is really funny. And so let's somehow relate it to the story. So I remember Max saying, okay, Jack brings a tassel back that Grace left at the house to the office, so he meets Karen. And in a strange kind of way, this kind of thin line of plot allowed me to embrace this tummy touching thing.
Right.
And Max was right. I mean, it was really, you know, because those 2 characters had never met, and so when they met, they exploded. And so it was, you know, just, you know, and I'll never forget in the pilot when, because everybody on the show is 2 generations younger than me, and I don't get a lot of the pop culture references, so. Well, because we changed jokes between takes, and on the pilot, Grace came in this outfit, and he said, Max said between takes, he said to Sean, say, oh, here comes Sporty Spice. And at that point, my stepdaughter was too young to be into the Spice Girls. And I looked at him like this, you know, and I said, what? And he said, trust me, it's going to get a big laugh. So he said it. He said it got a huge laugh, and, you know, that was, that's why I'm eternally indebted to Max and David for giving me, you know, giving me a window to see the '80s, how I never saw it when I lived in the '80s. Yeah. So I find this incredibly rewarding doing this show.
Thanks, Jim. I mean, this is incredible show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.